Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 10th overall spot on Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. Inside today's video, we're going to be drafting up against the ESPN pre-draft rankings, so it's going to be a lot like we are playing on ESPN inside of this video. We're going to be going over my thought process as I make each and every single pick, as well as talking about my feelings on the draft as a whole with the other picks that are going on around me. But before we get on in to this 10-team PPR mock draft from the 10th overall spot, I would like to ask, if you are new to the YouTube channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. I would also like to let you guys know that my rankings are available for free on Awesemo.com, as well as my articles that I write every single day. So please make sure that you guys check those out. Link below in the description, as well as in the pinned comment. So without further ado, let's get into the draft. Again, this is a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 10th overall spot, drafting up against the ESPN pre-draft rankings. Our roster positions go as follow: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. So let's get into the draft. So at the 10th overall spot is honestly one of my favorite spots to be drafting in a fantasy football draft in a 10-team league. I feel like I can get a nice 1-2 punch, especially in a 10-team league, because I feel like there's some really nice value at the 10th and 11th pick, whether it is 2 running backs, a running back, and a wide receiver. Sometimes even a tight end could be involved in that matchup of my 10th pick with the 11th pick, but in this case, we're probably not going to be able to get a tight end, and we won't, as you guys can see, because Travis Kelce goes so early on ESPN drafts because he is ranked as the 4th or 5th highest overall player. So when you're drafting on there, if you want to get Travis Kelce, you probably have to draft him much higher than you would if you were playing on Yahoo, NFL, or any of those other websites. So the draft begins with Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Travis Kelce, Alvin Kamara, Devontae Adams, Ezekiel Elliott, and Jonathan Taylor. So with the 4th overall pick, I'm basically looking to go anywhere but Saquon Barkley. Now, I don't think Saquon Barkley is a bad player, but with the injury concerns, I am still very worried that Joe Judge is going to put some type of time management, load management on this guy to where he's not getting the correct amount of snaps early on in the season, or maybe they bench him for the first game or two, and that is really going to severely dampen the potential that Saquon Barkley has. And if I'm being honest with you, it's just way safer to draft a guy like Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott at that pick at the 104, so I don't really understand that, but to each their own. So inside the first round right now, every single pick aside from 2 have been running backs: Travis Kelce at the 105 and Devontae Adams at the 107. Nothing too out of the ordinary here, aside from Saquon Barkley going at the 104, and my personal preference not to draft Travis Kelce as the 5th overall pick in the draft. So looking at the board here, we really do have the pick of the litter, aside from tight end, obviously, because since Travis Kelce is gone, you're not going to take some other tight end inside of the first round. We're also not going to be looking at the quarterback position. So since Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs are still available, we could go with a nice 1-2 punch here at the wide receiver position, potentially select 2 of the top 3 wide receivers in fantasy football this season, or we could go with 2 running backs, Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones, who both have the potential, in my opinion, to be a top 5 running back. I have Aaron Jones ranked inside of my top 5 because I believe that the Green Bay Packers are going to be very good yet again, and Aaron Jones has been very solid in 2019 as well as in 2020, and not a lot of people really point towards the fact that he is pretty solid in the receiving game as well, which gives you a nice floor week in and week out. I'm personally not very worried at all about A.J. Dillon. A lot of people seem to be much more worried than myself. I think Aaron Jones is the clear lead back there in Green Bay and is going to yet again potentially finish as a top 5 running back. Austin Eckler obviously did not end up finishing where I thought he would last season. Everyone was praising Austin Eckler, the receiving upside, Melvin Gordon's gone, all of these things that I thought were positives. For Austin Eckler, things started looking bad week 1 because Tyrod Taylor wasn't checking it down, but once Justin Herbert, the pervert, ended up being the starting quarterback of the team, things completely turned around. Austin Eckler was getting fed, but obviously he ended up getting hurt, so he didn't finish super high on the season, but I do believe he has top 5 potential this season if he is able to stay healthy with how good I think this LA Chargers offense is going to be. be. So the question here is, do we go 2 running backs? Do we go 2 wide receivers? Or do we do a mix and match? You go 1 running back and 1 wide receiver. At this point where we are sitting, I feel like the best idea is 1 running back and 1 wide receiver with the value that is available. So Aaron Jones or Austin Eckler is definitely a fine argument that you can make right here. Would you prefer Aaron Jones or Austin Eckler? Let me know down below in the comment section. Personally, I would lean with Aaron Jones, but if you told me that you wanted to pick Austin Eckler here, to me, there isn't a super big argument that I would have with you. I just love Aaron Jones' upside in Green Bay. I really see this team being very similar to 2019 to 2020, where Aaron Jones very much succeeded in those seasons, and I believe he could do the same thing in 2021. A lot of people knocked him following the 2019 season, saying he wasn't going to be able to finish as high because of the rushing touchdowns were going to go down. The rushing touchdowns did go down, and guess what? He was still really fucking good for fantasy football. So we're back up on the board here with Mr. Aaron Jones. You could definitely go Austin Eckler here, but I will lean with a wide receiver, Tyreek Hill versus Stephon Diggs. It's really just splitting hairs between those two. Tyreek Hill, obviously on the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the best teams in the NFL, super deep down the field threat, but he is still very, very consistent, which is something that's hard to find with a burner wide receiver like Tyreek Hill. Stephon Diggs also really fucking fast. Also on one of the best teams in the NFL with one of the best offenses, with one of the best quarterbacks, just like with Travis Kelce. It's split, or not with Travis Kelce, with Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce also on the Kansas City Chiefs. So again, it's basically splitting hairs. It's a pick 'em here. You flip a coin, you can pick either of them. Personally, I have Stephon Diggs ranked as the wide receiver number 2 and Tyreek Hill ranked as the wide receiver number 3. But again, there's really no need to have some big argument about those two players. I expect them both to be very, very good. So after one, Aaron Jones came Stephon Diggs, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Antonio Gibson, Tyreek Hill, Najee Harris, DK Metcalf, Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, Calvin Ridley, and DeAndre Hopkins to close out the second round. I really do not understand why DK Metcalf continues to be drafted as like the wide receiver 4 or 5 off of the board. I really just do not see him finishing that high in fantasy football. I would definitely take Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins over him. The third round begins with A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Miles Sanders, Darren Waller, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CeeDee Lamb, and Keenan Allen. Now, depending how the running backs are looking at this spot inside the third and the fourth round, we may utilize the hero running back strategy, which is a strategy that I talked about in the 12-team mock draft video from yesterday. The hero running back strategy is basically getting one of those workhorse running backs, one of those top 5, top 6, 7, 8 backs in fantasy football, and then in the second, third, fourth round, you hammer in on, maybe you get a tight end, maybe you go wide receivers there, and then you wait a little bit later to get running back, because you have that one running back. It's also been called the anchor running back strategy, where that's your anchor of your team. The Aaron Jones is your anchor, the Derrick Henry, the Dalvin Cook is your anchor, and then you hammer in on 2, 3 wide receivers in the second, third, and fourth round, and then maybe in the fifth round you go tight end, and then in the sixth round you hammer in on some high upside running backs that you believe could finish inside of the top 12, top 24, that are going to be very good options to complement with the wide receiver core you built and the early on running back that you took. Now again, I'm not saying we're going to utilize the hero running back strategy, but that is something that is a very hot talking point in fantasy football, so I figured I would bring it up. So looking at running backs, DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, Chris Carson, J.K. Dobbins, James Robinson. Now, I don't understand on ESPN why Miles Sanders is just basically considered a potential top 12 running back. He came off the board as running back number 14. I would rather let the doctor that stabbed Tyrod Taylor do my fucking blood work over drafting Miles Sanders. I don't understand that at all at running back number 14. I believe he is in a running back by committee. People like to turn the other cheek, look the other way from that, but if I'm being honest with you, I really think it's going to happen again. So we did see George Kittle fall to us inside of the third round, which is very surprising. Typically, him and Darren Waller are gone by the time we make our pick, but I've kind of made it very clear, at least in recent videos, that I'm not the biggest fan of George Kittle. Now, I'm not talking talent-wise or anything, because George Kittle is one of the most talented tight ends in the NFL. I'm more talking about not his skill set, I'm talking about the situation. I like Jimmy Garoppolo with George Kittle, but I don't know how much I'm going to like Trey Lance with George Kittle if they try to run the ball a lot more aggressively with Trey Lance under center, which would be my expectation, because Trey Lance's specialty is running the football. He's still a fine passing quarterback. He's not some type of bum in the pocket, but that is his specialty, and I expect Shanahan to want to go ahead and run the offense that way. So I do worry a little bit with George Kittle, because maybe George Kittle isn't Trey Lance's favorite target like George Kittle is Jimmy Garoppolo's favorite target. So again, I'm not telling you right here in the third round, don't take him, because that's where he's going to go. If you want him, you take him in the third round. I'm just kind of pointing to a counter argument that you can make for George Kittle before we make our third round pick. If you guys have ended up enjoying the video thus far, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below if you're new, and if you're not new, or even if you are new, please make sure to hit that like button down below as well. So we are on the board here. We're definitely going to go with at least one wide receiver at this pick. DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, Chris Carson, J.K. Dobbins. I like David Montgomery. I like Chris Carson. I like J.K. Dobbins, but I think we could honestly kind of utilize the hero running back, or the hero running back strategy that I talked about earlier, potentially in this draft. So looking at wide receiver, Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp. To me, there is a clear wide receiver here that I want, and that is Allen Robinson, wide receiver of the Chicago Bears. This guy has done it with such shitty quarterbacks in his career. He's done it with 9-inch Nick Foles. He has done it with Kiss and Titties Mitchell Trubisky. He's done it with Blake the Boat Bortles. So he can do it easily with Andy Dalton. I believe eventually Justin Fields will become the guy. Earlier on in the offseason, there was a lot of kind of mumbo jumbo coming about Mr. Justin Fields. How they were going to potentially do what the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith, where they have Alex Smith play the whole year, and then after that, Patrick Mahomes played after Alex Smith was done. So it would be Andy Dalton playing for a year, and then after that, they cut ties with him, and Justin Fields becomes the guy. Do I see that happening? No. At this point, no. Justin Fields just looks like so much better of a quarterback than Andy Dalton that I believe eventually this season that Allen Robinson's quarterback will be Justin Fields. How late into the season will it be? I'm not too sure. I assume week 1, Andy Dalton gets fed to the fucking dogs. He gets absolutely murdered by the LA Rams. And then after that, maybe week 2, you end up seeing Justin Fields be the starting quarterback. Maybe that's a little ambitious. Maybe it's week 4, 5, 6 of the season. But eventually, Allen Robinson's quarterback will be Justin Fields. And I believe that even further makes his upside even higher. Allen Robinson is both very, very safe as well as having a very, very high upside at the exact same time. So we're back up on the board here after we went with Allen Robinson. Looking at the wide receivers, Robert Woods, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Julio Jones. If I'm being honest with you guys, inside of the 5th round, I think there's going to be some solid value at the wide receiver position to be our flex, so we probably will lean either running back or George Kittle here. Now again, I'm not the biggest fan of George Kittle, but I do believe that he could easily be the #1 overall tight end in fantasy football if he is given the same amount of work that he'd be given with Jimmy Garoppolo, with Trey Lance. And if that is the case, then we're to feel like a fucking dumbass if we don't end up taking him here inside the 4th round. In drafts, I like to tell you guys to really change up your team every single time, especially in these mock drafts. You want to build different teams every single time, different team composition. So maybe in one mock draft, you want to go triple wide receiver off the rip. Then another draft, you want to go running back, then wide receiver. Sometimes you may even want to test out what it looks like if you draft a quarterback inside of the 4th round. So we're going to test out how I like this team with George Kittle. A safer lean would probably be to go with a running back like Chris Carson or J.K. Dobbins. But again, I want to be experimental in these drafts like I'm Bill Nye the fucking science guy, so that we can get the best idea of what strategy to truly use inside these drafts. And again, don't go into your draft with one locked and loaded in strategy. Don't go into the draft thinking, I need to go double running back in the first 2 rounds. I need to go double wide receiver. I need a running back and a wide receiver, and then I need a tight end in the 3rd round. Because then what happens if in the 3rd round, Kittle, Waller, and Kelsey are gone? Then what are you going to do? Draft Hawkinson in the 3rd round? Don't be going in there, sticking yourself in a box with just thinking you have to do one strategy. So after George Kittle came David Montgomery, James Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Adam Thielen, J.K. Dobbins, Robert Woods, Amari Cooper, Chris Carson, DeAndre Swift, Chase Edmonds, Javonte Williams, Chris Godwin, Tyler Lockett, Kareem Hunt, Julio Jones, DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, and Odell Beckham Jr. If you take Josh Jacobs inside of the 4th round of your draft, you're basically cruising for a bruising, as people would say. That's something my father would say. You're just absolutely looking to get your team taken out behind the back of Denny's and shot directly in the back of the fucking head. Josh Jacobs is a fine running back in real life. He's been successful in fantasy football, but then bringing in Kenyon Drake scares me a million miles away from Josh Jacobs. If you can get him in the 6th round, then I'm fine taking him. But inside the 4th round, you're just hoping for some upside that in reality, unless Kenyon Drake gets hurt, just really is not there in Las Vegas for the Raiders. Viva Las Vegas. So we're back up on the board here. A bunch of running backs did come off of the board. So the running backs that are going to be available here aren't going to be my favorite, but I do still like Darrell Henderson and Myles Gaskin a lot. Again, we already have our tight end, so we don't need to be looking at tight end at all for the rest of the draft. If you draft a George Kittle, your assumption has to be that this motherfucker is going to easily be a top 3 tight end, that he is going to tear the league a new asshole, and you expect him to be very good, so you don't need to draft a backup tight end, because the only time you're going to play that backup is in week 6 when George Kittle has his bye. So do not draft a backup tight end week 6. You just go on your bench, you cut someone, say see you later, good boy, and then you go ahead and you just add a new tight end, you throw him in there, and then after that, you cut that tight end, because you don't ever want to, you're not playing matchups when you draft a tight end like George Kittle, I'll tell you that much. So we're back up on the board here, and we're probably going to go with potentially a double running back strategy, unless we go running back and wide receiver. Running back still available, Mike Davis, Darrell Henderson, as well as Myles Gaskin. Wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, Higgins, Deontay Johnson, Jamar Chase, Chase Claypool. So here we are going to go running back and wide receiver, I believe. I like Mike Davis a lot. I like Myles Gaskin a lot. I like Darrell Henderson a lot as well. Now, I understand with the Sony Michel news, a lot of people are scared to draft Darrell Henderson because they're thinking that Sony Michel is going to really cut into Darrell Henderson's work. To me, why this occurred is I believe that Sean McVay didn't like what he saw out of the other running back 2s on the team. Like, who could have been the running back 2? Jake Funk, Xavier Jones, all these other guys. I believe that they were just like, fuck it. Sean McVay's just, fuck it. I'll trade away another pick. He's accustomed to trading away picks that are like 20 years down the line. Again, I don't remember what year this pick is, but it wasn't like some first-round pick or something to go ahead and get Sony Michel. Sony Michel is also a running back that didn't concern me at all for Damian Harris. I know Damian Harris's ADP is moving up. It shouldn't be. He should already have been drafted this high already, but he wasn't because people are a little bit silly. So Darrell Henderson, to me, is still a very fine pick here. I like him more than Mike Davis and Myles Gaskin, but I understand if you're looking for the safer route. Mike Davis is the clear running back 1 in Atlanta. Myles Gaskin, the clear running back 1 in Miami, but I believe Darrell Henderson is the clear running back 1 in LA for the Rams, and this is really just assurance as well, because Darrell Henderson did end up spraining his thumb, hurting his, or maybe it wasn't his thumb, but just one of his fingers. So he's going to be good to go for week 1, but that's just some further assurance in case things go completely wrong with Darrell Henderson. So we're back up on the board here. Looking at wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, Deontay Johnson, Higgins, and Jamar Chase. So we are going to go wide receiver here, like I said, and I think Deontay Johnson would be the pick for me. Now, in the first 4 rounds of the draft, I say this in basically every video, I'm trying to keep it as safe as possible. Now, again, I don't believe George Kittle is some safe pick, but in the 4th round, I believe that it's basically a no-brainer to take him at that point, even if I don't like him. But in the first 4 rounds, you really need to put that safety wrap. You want to put the bubble wrap, that metaphorical condom over your roster. You want to keep it safe early on. But then after that, you can go ahead and go a little bit more crazy, a little bit more risky, because early on in the draft, it's very hard to win your draft inside of the first couple of rounds, but it's very easy to lose your draft, to completely dismantle your team from the inside early on in the draft by making reaches, making terrible picks. So that's why I go ahead, try to keep it very safe early on, and then the 5th, 6th round, I like to get a little bit spicy and so on. So here we are going to go with Deontay Johnson. He is far from a safe pick in Pittsburgh. I believe that Deontay Johnson is the clear wide receiver 1, the clear favorite target there for Big Ben Roethlisberger. Deontay Johnson showed out a lot last season. Obviously had the drop issues, but in preseason has yet to drop the football. I believe Deontay Johnson is going to be amazing in 2021, and if he doesn't get benched for drops, he really does have top 12 potential with the amount of volume I believe he will be seeing from Big Ben Roethlisberger. The safer pick there probably is Cooper Kupp, though. With Matthew Stafford under center, it would be a very confusing world, if I'm being honest with you, if the scenario doesn't play out where Cooper Kupp doesn't finish as a top 20, 24 wide receiver with Matthew Stafford under center if he is healthy. So after Deontay Johnson came Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, Damian Harris, Mike Davis, Kyle Pitts, Logan Thomas, Kyler Murray. The 7th round begins with Kenny Golladay, Cooper Kupp, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, the pervert, Myles Gaskin, and Sony Michel. Sony Michel in the 7th round. That is a reach like you read about. Don't do that. Do not do that. I'll tell you that much. That is not worth it. We saw a huge quarterback run happen. Now, do I agree with this? No, but in the 6th round, the value of Patrick Mahomes is very good. Definitely considered potentially taking him there, but I do like Deontay Johnson a lot. I did not expect to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks go in a row in the 7th round. Typically, after all those top 5 guys are gone, so Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Dak, Lamar Jackson, whatever order you have them in, those are the consensus top 5 players at the quarterback position. Typically after that, there's about a round, 2-round lull between then Aaron Rodgers, Russ, Justin Herbert come off the board, but no, this time they all go in a row. That's why I tell you guys to not hop on these quarterback runs, not to hop on the tight end runs, because now we have chef's kiss amazing value at wide receiver or running back because everyone hopped onto the quarterback train right there. We're definitely going to wait till a little bit later to get our quarterback. So we are back up on the board here. Ryan Tannehill, does he not have COVID anymore? Did he just get taken off of the list? Is that what occurred? No, he's still on the COVID list. It just doesn't say COVID anymore, which is very weird. He should be fine, though. Just placed on the COVID list. Probably not really a big deal, if I'm being honest with you. I'm still drafting Ryan Tannehill with full-on confidence, but I'm certainly not going to draft him inside of the 7th round here. So we are probably going to go wide receiver because I'm not in love with any of these running backs. I will take one of the running backs likely in this pick, but we will be going with a wide receiver as well. To me, the pick is very clear. It is Titty Boy T. Higgins, wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals. I am in love with the value that T. Higgins presents. Jamar Chase has struggled immensely in training camp, struggled in preseason. It is the rust. The fact is that he hasn't played football, real life football, not up against the air, not just playing 1v1 in his fucking backyard with someone. He hasn't played real football since 2019 in college with LSU. So, I think there's rust there. I don't think Jamar Chase is going to have some type of shit season, but I think T. Higgins is probably the clear assumption, at least in my opinion, to be the wide receiver 1 in targets on the Bengals. I think Jamar Chase will be fine this season, but there's definitely risk when taking him ahead of T. Higgins. So we're back up on the board here, and we're going to hunt for some high upside running backs. I'm already very much sold in on Aaron Jones and Darrell Henderson's potential, so we're just going to hunt for upside here. We're going to go with Trey Sermon, running back of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I also like Raheem Mostert as well. I've talked about him as I believe he's going to be the first running back on the team getting the first licks. He's going to get the first go ahead at it, but if he struggles, we all know Raheem Mostert isn't fucking Saquon Barkley or something. There is potential for him to lose that job and Trey Sermon to become the guy. They run the hot hand approach in San Francisco, meaning if Raheem Mostert gets the start, but he ends up looking like shit, they are very quick to pull the swoopity swoop, the wibbity wop, and put Trey Sermon into the game. Trey Sermon sucks. They put the water boy in. They'll let Trey Lance run the ball. They do all types of crazy shit there in San Francisco. That's why I call it the running back by orgy. Normally, we would lean Raheem Mostert, but again, I want you guys to understand that you want to switch it up sometimes. Want to go with Trey Sermon here. I'm definitely fine having George Kittle and another San Francisco 49ers player on my team. When the players are on the same team, and the team is expected to be really good, there's really no worry, in my opinion, in drafting 2 players on that same team. So after we went ahead and drafted Mr. Trey Sermon, came his teammate Raheem Mostert, Cortland Sutton, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, Chase Claypool, Jerry Jeudy, Jamar Chase, A.J. Dillon, Juju, Smith-Schuster, Corvette, Robbie Anderson, Will Fuller, Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks, Ronald Jones, Zach Moss, Michael Carter, Devontae Smith, and Laviska Shenault. I like Laviska Shenault. I like DJ Chark, but to me, the wide receiver to have there in Jacksonville is Stavin Marvin Jones. So we are back up on the board here. We have a really balanced roster right now. We have our 2 starting running backs, Aaron Jones and Darrell Henderson. We also have Trey Sermon. So we got 3 running backs. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 wide receivers, and we have a tight end. The rule of thumb for fantasy football that I always talk about in these videos, so I apologize if you've watched a lot of my mock drafts. You've probably heard me say this a million times. To draft more running backs than wide receivers, because it's very easy to whip out your phone or go on your computer when you're looking at the waiver wire and just find some random fucking wide receiver that you can start any given week, and they could probably get you like 10, 15 points. But at running back, that is near impossible unless of an injury. So that's why I load up on these running backs later on in the draft that have high upside if there was an injury to occur ahead of them. So looking at the board at the running back position, Kenya Drake, James Conner, Naheem Hines, Jamal Williams, David Johnson, Devin Singletary, Singletary, nothing I'm super in love with at this pick, so we may end up just hammering in on the wide receiver position here, maybe going with a quarterback as well. So again, I like Kenyon Drake, but I don't see so much value unless Josh Jacobs was to go down. Actually, I like James Conner a lot. I think my mind just mentally skipped over James Conner. I don't even know if I fucking said his name. James Conner is the clear pick here in Arizona. I do not like Chase Edmonds. I have been talking about this for months now. Earlier on in the offseason, I was like, man, Chase Edmonds is the only running back there, but then they ended up bringing in James Conner, and I wouldn't be surprised if James Conner became the starter of the Arizona Cardinals team, so I really do like James Conner a lot this season, especially where he's going in the 9th round, because there's not too much of a gamble with it. If he doesn't end up being the running back one, sure, he'll sit behind Chase Edmonds, but eventually he could surpass him, or if there's an injury to Edmonds, he could move up and be a very dangerous running back in fantasy football. We saw it with Kenyon Drake in the past. Last year also, Cliff Kingsbury just refused to make Kenyon Drake sit down. He wasn't looking very good. They continued to roll him out there instead of using Chase Edmonds, which tells me enough about the fact that Cliff Kingsbury doesn't necessarily believe in Edmonds as a running back one. So I don't know why you would believe that, especially if they brought in James Conner, which is a clear plan to, hey, if you suck Chase Edmonds, there we go. It's James Conner season, because James Conner has been a successful running back in the past. So we are up on the board here looking at other running backs, Kenyon Drake, Nyheim Hines. I like Jamal Williams. I like Drake. I like Hines. But nothing I feel ultra confident about. Wide receivers, Tyler, yeah, boy, Deebo Samuel, DJ Chark, Corey Davis. I like Corey Davis a lot in the 10th round, probably not. So we are going to go quarterback. We're going to go ahead and get Tom Brady on our team. Typically, Tom Brady goes a little bit earlier. While I don't necessarily love all of the wide receivers there in Tampa Bay fantasy-wise, they're all great. Godwin, AB, and they also have Mike Evans. That's a very good wide receiver core, but I do like Tom Brady because with Mike Evans, with Chris Godwin, with Antonio Brown, Tom Brady really throws the ball everywhere, right? He doesn't just lock on fucking heat-seeking missile onto one wide receiver. He spreads the ball out, so he's going to have a good season. I just worry slightly about Godwin Evans when it comes to a week-in, week-out basis with Antonio Brown there, but that doesn't matter at all for Tom Brady because he gets the points regardless of where he throws the ball. So we're back up on the board here in 19 picks. So if you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, we're nearing the end of the video, so please make sure that you guys do hit that subscribe button. Also follow me on Twitter at NotoriousFNTSY. So after we went ahead and got Mr. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, I apologize that you can't see more of the players want to do the electric slide to the left, slide to the right, crisscross, and then we're on the left side of the screen. Sorry if you guys thought that was fucking stupid. I actually apologize. That was kind of funny though. At least in my mind, I thought that was funny. So hit the like button if you enjoyed that. Comment down below. Cha-Cha Slide. Is that song? Is that the Cha-Cha Slide? I think so, at least. So comment down Cha-Cha Slide if you made it this far and you enjoyed that. You thought that was kind of funny. In the other video, the other day, I did like a kick flip, which I thought was funny as well. So after Tom Brady came DJ Chark, do baby Chark, Michael Thomas, Kenyon Drake, Tyler, yeah, Boyd, Hollywood Brown, Jamal Williams, Phillip Lindsay, Devin Singletary, Deebo Samuel, Marvin Jones, Jalen Hurts, Mike Williams, Corey Davis, Gus Edwards, David Johnson, Curtis Samuel, Jarvis Landry, and AB. Business is booming. Call God, Antonio Brown. So we already have our quarterback that I'm very confident. We already have a tight end that I'm very confident in. So guess what? We're not drafting another quarterback. We are not going to draft another tight end. So we're probably going to hammer in on running backs and wide receivers with the remaining picks. So how many running backs we got? We got Jones, we got Henderson, we got Trey Sermon, and we got James Conner. That's 4. And we have 4 wide receivers. 4 for 4, like we're at Wendy's. So here we can go running back and wide receiver. First, we're going to lean with the wide receiver. We're going to go ahead and see. The question is, do I want to get Mooney because we already have Allen Robinson? Now, I think Darnell Mooney has a lot of potential this season, given that he is the wide receiver 2 there, and I believe that the fact that Nick Foles as well as Mitch Trubisky just were throwing the ball nowhere near the guy, that he struggled because of that, but he does have really big breakout potential in 2021. Devontae Parker still available, not a player I'm looking at as a Dolphins fan. I don't like Devontae Parker. Michael Pittman Jr., I don't really trust. He's a fine pick, I understand it, right? Wide receiver 1 potentially in Indianapolis, so you may want to take that shot. Jalen Waddle, I like much more than Devontae Parker. McCole Hardman, Like, maybe he is the wide receiver 2 there. Maybe my belief that he was just going to get fucked over and not be the wide receiver 2, maybe he actually will be, and that's a lot of value in the 11th round. T.Y. Hilton, no. Elijah Moore, I like. Russell Gage, so I do like a decent amount of these wide receivers. Running backs, I like a decent amount of them as well. So first, we're going to go wide receiver, and See, I don't think we can take Darnell Mooney. I think that may be a little bit of a silly play. So we're going to go ahead and go with the upside of Mecole Hardman potentially becoming the wide receiver 2. I definitely wouldn't describe him as a must-draft candidate because we've been drafting him for years, and he hasn't really paid off, but maybe this season with Sammy Watkins gone, it's finally time for Mecole Hardman's season. So here we're going to go running back, and we're going to go with Nyheim Hines. Nyheim Hines got a whole bunch of dump-offs last season. Now, I understand that was without Marlon Mack, but for some reason, they just don't believe in dumping the ball off to Jonathan Taylor, and that's very good for Nyheim Hines, not the greatest for Jonathan Taylor. So after we went ahead and made our pick here, we got to go ahead and see that Nyheim Hines came off the board, followed by Noah Fant, Robert Tonyan, Ryan Tannehill, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, Alexander Madison, Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, Dallas Goedert, Malcolm Brown, Tony Pollard, J.D. McKissick, James White, Carlos Hyde, Giovanni Bernard, Tevin Coleman, Mark Ingram, and Mike Licky Amagasicki. So here again, this is things I just don't understand. It's a 10-team league. You drafted Dak. You drafted Rodgers. You drafted Russ. You drafted Herbert. You don't need a backup quarterback. Doesn't make very much sense in my mind. So we're back up on the board here. Going to lean with yet another running back, hunting for that high upside. We're going to get Latavius Murray because if Alvin Kamara was to go down, Latavius Murray could be a legitimate top 5 running back in those games because of how much he will be fed the ball. Jameis now the starter. Huge round of applause for me, personally. Huge claps for me because I've been saying Jameis is the guy for months. People were saying, oh, it's going to be Taysom Hill. Yeah, I know, right? Taysom Hill's looking good on the bench, motherfucker. Not really, though. He's probably going to be starting tight end because of how bad the tight end core is there with the injuries. So we're back up on the board here. Should go defense and kicker, but you don't have to. Realistically, since we are not done with preseason yet, we're not done with training camp, injuries could happen. So you could just load up on backup running backs and wide receivers. So here I'm fine taking Darnell Mooney. Actually, we're going to lean with running back first and then go with Mooney in the last round because there's a potential that the running back I want ends up getting taken. So let's go with Salvon Ahmed. I think he's the true backup for Mr. Myles Gaskin. I don't think Malcolm Brown is that guy, pal. And Malcolm Brown gets drafted normally way ahead of him. So it is our last pick coming up here. After we went ahead and got Mr. Salvon Ahmed, came a bunch of defenses all in a row, a bunch of kickers all in a row, which if I'm being honest with you guys, people draft defenses and kickers in like the 8th, 9th round in a lot of drafts. So here we are going to go ahead and get another wide receiver here to add to the team. Again, the reason why you don't draft a defense or a kicker right now is because preseason and training camp are not over. People could still get injured, but once the season gets closer, once those things are over, then it's fine to drop these backup players that we add and add your defense and your kicker. So we're back up on the board here. We are going to end up going with another wide receiver. I'm going to get Darnell. Here comes the Mooney because, you know, he's like a throwaway pick at this point. It's fine drafting him with Allen Robinson already on the team. So the draft has been complete. We got an A-90 out of 100 if you're doing mock drafts on the Fantasy Pros Mock Draft Wizard. Please do not fucking worry about the grade you get. It doesn't really matter at all. So our team is quarterback Tampa Bay, Tom Brady. Running backs are Aaron Jones and Darrell Henderson. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs and Allen Robinson. Tight end George Kittle. Flex Deontay Johnson. Our bench is comprised of Titty Boy T. Higgins, Trey Sermon, James Conner, Mecole Hardman, Nyheim Hines, Latavius Murray, Salvon Ahmed, and Darrell Mooney. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out this content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, please make sure to hit that like button as well. I love you guys all so much. Have a great rest of your guys' day. As always, goodbye.